Good day, everyone. My name is Frank Comito. I've been asked to moderate today's session, and on behalf of the Caribbean Tourism Organization, I'd like to welcome everyone for joining us today. This is uh, we have a great program lined up for you with a lot of important information to share with you about the value and the importance of eco-labeling systems. And I'd like to start off by introducing the representative on behalf of the Caribbean Tourism Organization, Sharon Banfield-Bovell, who would like to offer some welcome remarks. Sharon?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Frank. Good morning, colleagues. On behalf of the Secretary General and CEO of the Caribbean Tourism Organization, it is my distinct pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar hosted by the CTO in collaboration with the Foundation for Environmental Education, better known as FEE. Now, we're truly pleased that you've taken the time to join us for what promises to be a very thought-provoking and timely dialogue on one of the most pressing priorities in Caribbean tourism. The theme of today's session is harnessing eco-labels as a source of sustainable competitive advantage. And it speaks directly to the nexus of three critical imperatives for our region: sustainability, competitiveness, and climate resilience. This conversation could not be more relevant as we collectively navigate the realities of climate change, from rising sea levels and warmer oceans to more frequent hurricanes, coral bleaching, coastal degradation, and the list goes on. So we must be deliberate about the strategies we employ to secure the long-term viability of our tourism sector. And these challenges, they're not abstract, they're being felt across our destinations in very real and very tangible ways, threatening our ecosystems, infrastructure, and livelihoods, especially for our coastal and island communities. Now, at the same time, tourism remains a cornerstone of our economy. So we must therefore strike that balance, one where economic development is pursued in harmony with environmental sustainability and stewardship. This is where eco-labels and eco-certification systems play a transformative role. Eco-labels are not merely symbolic recognitions. No, they truly represent a commitment to operational excellence, reduced carbon output, and just social responsible practices. They are therefore essential tools for mitigating environmental impacts, enhancing our destination's credibility, and strengthening market positioning in our increasingly sustainability-conscious global travel market. So at the CTO, we view sustainability not just as a peripheral objective, but as a core development principle. Through platforms such as this one today, we are working to ensure that sustainability is embedded into tourism policy, into planning, into overall practice across our region. So today's session reflects that ongoing effort to build knowledge, foster collaboration, and drive action at all levels. So over the next 90 minutes, you will hear from global experts, regional thought leaders, and on-the-ground practitioners who will share their experiences, insights, and practical approaches to integrating eco-labels into tourism operations. Whether you are a policymaker, a tourism business owner, or just a sustainability advocate, we hope you leave this session not only better informed, but inspired to take meaningful steps towards advancing sustainable tourism in your specific context. So I wish to extend special thanks to our partner, the Foundation for Environmental Education, and to all of our distinguished speakers and contributors for their continued collaboration and commitment to this shared vision. And of course, a sincere thank you to each of you in our audience today. Your engagement and participation are what makes these conversations impactful and catalytic. With that, it is now my pleasure to invite our partner representative, Ms. Joanna Wothke, Program Coordinator at Blue Flag, to deliver remarks on behalf of FEE. Thank you one and all, and enjoy the session.
Hello, thank you, Mrs. Banfield-Bovell, and thank you, Frank Comito, for facilitating discussion and for partnering with us at the Foundation for Environmental Education. I am the CEO of Green TNT, and we are a member of the Foundation for Environmental Education. Our office is in Trinidad and Tobago. However, we have been given mandate to assist Caribbean countries without program coordinators who would like to become part of fee programs or implement fee programs in their country. I would like to share my screen with you. Somehow my screen. My screen is no longer. Okay, tell me if you are seeing my screen.
Not at present.
No,
Okay,
unable to see it.
There it is.
Oh.
There it is. Okay,
There we go.
great.
There it is.
Yep. We're good.
Great. So if we look at this topic, it says competitive advantage. We're going to look at eco-labels as a source of sustainable competitive advantage, but I want us to think also of financial advantages, of regulatory advantages, of environmental advantages, of reputation advantages, and operational advantages. And I hope at the end of my session with you, you will be able to see all these different advantages when engaging with eco-labels. So first of all, we are the Foundation for Environmental Education, and most of you know it as an NGO, a non-for-profit organization out of Denmark. It started off in Europe, yes, but it has a global reach of over 81 countries, and we have 2 tourism programs and 3 education programs. Green Key and Blue Flag, many of you are familiar with, and I will talk about those 2 programs. But what you do not know are the school programs such as Young Reporters for the Environment, which focus on young people researching and responding to environmental phenomena, and of course, asking for accountability on it as well. There's also eco schools, which look at an holistic approach in which schools can engage in sustainability initiatives. So from education, energy savings, water, but also looking at community engagement. And the last one is learning about the forest, which is specifically at how students and young people can be stewards of forests and ecosystems and the services that these ecosystems provide. All of this is part of the Foundation for Environmental Education Gaia 2030 strategy, which speaks to reducing pollution, addressing climate change, and addressing biodiversity loss. I would focus on Green Key first. Many of you know the Green Key program. It is the known certification schemes for hotels, restaurants, tourism entities, and establishments looking at their sustainability operation. What you may not know is that in other words, today we focus on Green Key, but basically any eco-label that provides a certification scheme for engaging in any sustainable standards or meeting sustainable compliance can be used. Today, I would share examples from Green Key, but the idea is engaging in any sustainability initiative that can provide those advantages that I mentioned earlier is what I am hoping we can achieve at the end of this session. Here in the screen in front of you, you would see the different types of establishments that can apply for the Green Key program. And it includes theme parks, museums, interpretation centers, so not only hotels and restaurants that we are familiar with. In terms of Green Key, it's one of those programs that really increased in a quick time, and we will talk about why. But one of the things that we've noticed is that the Global South, including the Caribbean, has has participated in the program in such a way that it has accounted for 30% overall increase. And if we look at the reach, we're looking at 30 million guests around the world are familiar or have been in contact or have been influenced or have taken away initiatives from the Green Key program back to their homes or back to their communities. Its impact is far and reaching in terms of the partners, chain partners, such as the Hyatts, the Marriott, the Acolla, etc., but also the web partners like the Booking.com, the TripAdvisor. Then you have United Nations and all the UN partners, and of course, the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association also as a partner. So it's one of those eco-labels that really it's known, it is reputable, it is trustworthy, and I hope at the end of this you will be able to be also convinced that it is something to get on board with. The other program that P is the umbrella organization for is Blue Flag. Blue Flag is the eco-label for beaches, marinas, and sustainable boat tour operators. There's no other program in the world like this one. And why this is different is because it looks at water quality, and that is a huge element in the Blue Flag program, in which you want to ensure that the bathing water is safe for users at all times. It looks at other safety services, so the capacity of the lifeguard, the resources given to beach operators so that your bathers and users of the facilities are safe and they have an experience, a memorable experience. You want to also pay attention to other members within the community, such as the elderly, differently abled, and children, and they also feel safe. Other parts of the Blue Flag program that you may not know, environmental education is a huge component, being able to share with the users the reason why this location is an environmental phenomenon, and not to mention things like energy saving, water saving, waste management are all part of what makes a Blue Flag beach different from any other beach. Then you have Blue Flag sites in 51 countries, and there are over 5,100 sites around the world. Blue Flag has been around for quite some time. In fact, it was one of the first programs that Peace started in 1981, and it is still one of the strongest programs. I spoke about the different sites that can be part of Blue Flag. It's very different to Green Key. It speaks to beaches, marinas, and boat tour operators. And boat tour would be any boat facilities with an engine or without that provides boat tours. It can be in the sea, or you can provide boat tours that end on land. They also can be part of the Blue Flag program. But let's get to the real reason why eco-labels really matter. The credibility is a main element. In Europe, eco-labels speak volume. In fact, if you are engaging in an eco-label, it says that you are conscious of the way you operate, you're conscious of how your staff is working in your establishment, you're conscious of your impact on the environment. And so you want to ensure that you're adhering to eco-labels that are credible, that are trustworthy, that are aligned with regulatory framework, whether it's EU framework or other international compliances. It also is important because it attracts the travelers that you want, the travelers that are conscious of their behavior, the travelers that are more responsible and would like to leave the destination or the site even better than they left it. And for us in the Caribbean, that is important because that is our asset. Our natural asset is what our tourism product depends on. It's what we depend on for business as well. So why don't we have tourism activities that encourage a particular traveler that is able to help us leave our sites and attractions even better than they met it in the first place? The other reason why you want to engage in an eco-label is definitely the financial benefits and operational and resource benefits. So I will talk to you about examples in which sites were able to save money, whether it be on energy savings or water savings, and how they were able to even manage their resources and optimize the limited resources that they have. Enhanced brand, we're talking about the reputation of your business. We're talking about the visibility. We're talking about the global recognition that you have with a local initiative that you are doing. And eco-labels like Green Key is a great example of that, in which your message, your best practice or good practice, your activities that you engage in is shared with the network around the globe, not only within the FEE network, but also the stakeholders and partners that FEE work with. So I want to narrow in on us in Trinidad and Tobago, and specifically in Tobago, having worked in the program for quite some time, and I will get to what we do. We have seen cost reduction. We have sites in Tobago that were able to use the Green Key standards to track their energy consumption. Within the Green Key program, you must track your energy consumption, but the question is why? Why do I need to track? I want to see how I am operating from the previous years. What initiatives can I do to reduce? Is it an activity that I'm engaging that is causing my consumption to increase or decrease? If it's decreasing, what can I do more with that activity? And these are the kinds of questions that the auditors ask. And so this property was able to track and monitor its energy consumption, and they saw that there was a drastic reduction in their energy consumption by 35%. I know that Dr. Cameron will talk more about this, but also they were able to benefit from an initiative funded by the Ministry of Planning, in which they engage in district cooling, a district cooling project that allowed them to receive free cooling for their facilities, and therefore they were able to further reduce their energy costs. Other sites have cited that they received 44% brand recognition. Their brand was now more visible. There was an increase in their brand visibility across continents. They were able to see visitors from around the world because of eco-labels like Green Key, and they wanted to participate, and that's why they visited the property. But all the properties that engage in Green Key said that there's definite staff engagement. And that is one of the important pillars for Green Key, being part of the Foundation for Environmental Education, because the idea is education brings about change in behavior, and then change in behavior trickles down to your normal culture and habits. And so for the staff, it was easy for them to separate their waste. It was easy for them to engage in resource reduction, whether it was paper, there was no need to print paper, or when the staff or when the guests are asking, what is Green Key or what is it I can do, the staff were willing to share information about the program and how they can get involved. Additionally, for the staff, being able to meet not only compliance, but even meet the ones that are even more difficult to meet, and to know that at the end of their hard work, they were able to get the certification was a huge motivator. And many of them said that they look forward to meeting other standards in the future so that they can further attain Green Key, but keep the award as well. So who are we? As a national operator for Trinidad and Tobago, it means that we have to engage in different stakeholders that are willing to meet sustainability compliance, that are willing to differentiate themselves, and of course, become more sustainable. We have been around since 2005, but of late, our mandate has been increasing the consciousness and awareness of the hospitality and tourism sector, and hence we engage in Green Key and Blue Flag programs. We have been working with over 100, and here it's 127, but it's more than that. We have done 48 audits already, and we have worked with the national juries in order to provide certification to a number of hotels. Some you would hear from Castara Retreat, but there are hotels in Trinidad as well. We also worked with the Tobago Tourism Agency in identifying beaches that could be blue flag beaches, and they are now registered as blue flag pilot beaches. That is something you can think about as you work towards compliance, is that you can become a pilot site, which means that there's some level of commitment towards your sustainable operation. There's commitment towards doing things differently, and there's commitment towards attaining certification at some point in time, and we can talk about what that means. For those of you who are familiar with Trinidad, you would have remembered that Las Cuevas was a blue flag beach at one point, and it's destinations like that we like to talk about because it's a natural fit to programs like Blue Flag and Green Key. And as I mentioned before, we have been given the mandate by Fee International to assist countries in the Caribbean without a fee national operator or program operator. So we have been working in Curacao, Suriname, and other Caribbean countries have reached out to us for support. In terms of local examples and success stories, sites have shared with us that they were able to track and reduce their food waste. Now, food waste is a cost, it's a liability. And if you are able to reduce your cost, then overall you're able to improve your efficiency and profitability. So what they were able to do is track the amount of waste, and they were able to track the amount of organic waste or waste you can use as compost. They were able to track the waste that they sent to landfill. And they introduced initiatives to reduce their waste. So for example, looking at your guest forecast, looking at how do I serve food to the guest, in what medium should I use, and what times of the day should that be available, in what amount, etc. And using those initiatives, they were able to track their food waste. They also look at what happens to the waste, or what happens to leftover food. Is it meeting HACCP standards that we can enjoy in-house, or is it something that I could donate to farms? So one hotel, for example, donated food to the zoo, and another one donated to pig farm. Then they looked at, where am I sourcing my food? What is the not only CO2 impact, but what is the cost, the transport cost, etc.? Is it something that we can grow on our own? And that is easy for many properties to do, especially if you have the space. You can start off with a herb garden in which you can provide herbs to the kitchen and also to the bar. And that is what they were able to do and reduce their food costs. One hotel is in the city, and they were able to use hydroponics and create their own herb garden and provide it to the hotel. Training is super important. It's not only one-off training or onboarding when you have a new staff, but it's those reinforcement and recognize staff when they are going beyond. We realize that that is a huge motivational factor in getting the job done and meeting compliance, but also even seeing the benefits of your hard work. Global recognition, as I mentioned before, the sites shared that they were able to see their brand, their name in countries that they didn't think of. They were able to get guest from countries that they didn't think of before because of the brand recognition that Ecolabels bring. Energy, we spoke about before, but basically introducing things like LED bulbs can drastically reduce your cost. We're talking about 1 kilowatt per day, etc. That can add up to cost reduction. Also, having the availability of these resources is quite important. How easily it is for me to access LED light bulbs, how easy it is for me to access things like paper that are environmentally friendly or cleaning products that are environmentally friendly can be a challenge. And that is why Ecolabels like Green Key are partnering with cleaning products like Ecolab, and there are Ecolab outlets within the Caribbean, so that you can have environmentally friendly products that you can trust, that you know what goes out into the ocean has known as do not have negative impacts on the environment. And if you look at the Green Key website, you would see many of their partners, from partners regarding water, cleaning products, etc., because they look at where the areas that are creating the most impact and who can we partner with and share that resources and information so that we can reduce those negative impacts. Coming down to the end of my presentation, I just want to reinforce why you should invest in Ecolabels. Dr. Cameron will share with you some of the statistics behind who believe that it saves money, who believe that there is increased visibility, but also there's a point here about risk management. We realize that when you follow particular standards regarding staff, regarding health, there are questions on smoking, etc., you are able to reduce your risk. There are questions on food management and HACCP that is able to reduce your risk as well. And how does it work? How do you engage in programs like Green Key? Well, we have a set of criteria. Some are imperative and some are guidelines. What is nice about Green Key, for example, is that you meet the guideline criteria only after the second and third year, and then you meet the guideline criteria incrementally, right? So the initial investment is not huge. The imperative criteria or mandatory criteria is something that all sites can meet. If you plan and strategically look at your what you have available to you, you can. And then you have the guideline criteria, which you can decide which one of the guideline criteria, from staff involvement to food and beverage, that you would like to attain. And it involves regular audits. So for example, in the first year, there's a physical audit. Second year, there's a physical audit. And afterwards, there are remote audits. And then by year 5, a physical audit, year 8, etc. So what can Green TNT do for you? Business entities that are on the call, we can meet with you and look at how far you are from the criteria, if that is the case, and we can engage with partners within the region that are already certified, that have been able to source eco-friendly products, and we can work with you in meeting the mandatory criteria. And then we look at how can you meet now the guideline criteria and look at continuous improvement. So I have on the site our contact information. Feel free to scan, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. And it's quite an extensive overview. I'm familiar with some of the Ecolabel programs, but one of the things that stands out with the FEE programs, the Foundation for Environmental Education programs, which are basically Blue Flag and Green Key, and as well as some educational components to it. One of the things that stands out is the strong training focus that you have as well. Can you just elaborate a little bit more about what you guys do in terms of help to train? It was in the last bullet, number 4, and what on your last slide. What type of training? What are you doing to help the businesses reach standards, operational efficiencies, and so on?
Okay, so the first thing is there's a fee academy. So online you have access to resources from Green Key. It starts off with introduction to Green Key all the way to waste management, energy management courses that as a manager you can engage in, and then you share with your staff, or your staff can log in, and all of that is for free. Then there are toolkits available to sites as
Wait
well.
a second. You said for free, that means anyone can tap into those
Yes.
things?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, anyone can tap into. And then there are toolkits available to sites as well. Once you have joined the program, in which you are provided with not only the tool itself, but you're providing with the material as to how to use the tool. And then national operators within the country provide assistance to sit with you, whether it's remotely or in person, with your staff as to how you can meet compliance as well. And it's part of the criteria in which staff training, yearly staff training is required for the program.
Very good. Very good. Thank you so much. I've been asked in the program to offer some brief remarks as well, which I will do at this point. And I guess it's based on my experience working with the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association, with local associations over many years, about as many years as FEE's been in existence, and over 40 years, I believe, as well as with the Caribbean Alliance for Sustainable Tourism. So bear with me as I offer about 3 minutes worth of remarks here. And by the way, we'd like to encourage you to be engaged. So any of the participants out there, if you have any questions, there's a Q&A button on the bottom there. You can just put it in at any point in time. We will get to you as well. And I noticed that Joanna just provided you with a link as well on the chat. So over the past 4 decades, we have seen a shift of many in the industry towards adopting a more comprehensive and broad approach as to how they operate in an environmentally and socially responsible way, particularly with regard to the protection of our natural marine-related resources. We've seen some improvement. Early on, the industry was guided by a few leaders, particularly in the region, particularly by small, medium-sized companies, hotels, dive operators, and marinas, who subscribed to what one might call just good business practices. The early pioneers in standard setting regarding their business practices recognize as well that good eco and social practices also translated into good economic practices as well. And while the tourism industry saw some progress in this regard, it has been incremental. I think we've got to be honest. We'd like to see it be much more progressive. And as our coral reefs, our mangroves, our seagrasses, and coastal environments have been compromised, often by ignorance and indifference, and by man-made practices, we've seen the emergence of ecolabels serving as standard setters to help guide tourism-related businesses in their understanding and quest to safeguard the natural coastal resources, which, as Joanna said, which make their business possible. In today's session, we've learned a little bit, and we'll learn some more about one of the world's leading organizations involved in eco-labeling, the Foundation for Environmental Education, about the importance of the work being undertaken to support the tourism industry in its efforts to establish and maintain sound practices. We also will be learning shortly about the practical benefits of eco-certifications in the Caribbean based upon the experiences and research undertaken by the University of the West Indies and business-oriented research. And we'll hear a little bit later as well from an industry representative as to how eco-labels have contributed to their value and success. In wrapping up my remarks, the economic benefits to industry of becoming a steward of our environment are becoming increasingly evident to more businesses. while we've a long way to go, today we can see so vividly industry which is becoming more actively involved in matters like coral reef management and restoration, protecting mangroves, reducing waste and runoff, recycling, educating employees and guests. These are all laudable efforts, and we're seeing us stepping up, but they're not enough. And greater industry embrace of eco-labels and how to utilize them in their operational marketing and community engagement practices can be a game changer for a company and their surrounding environment. Later this week, the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association and the Caribbean Alliance for Sustainable Tourism will announce the finalists of our first set of Caribbean Tourism Coral Reef Stewardship Awards. We are encouraged by the growing number of Caribbean tourism-based businesses which are stepping up their game and becoming genuine stewards, and by the variety of approaches that we're seeing being undertaken. We all stand to learn from one another, and today's session aims to share the value and importance of those standard-setting business programs which government and NGOs can also tap into. Thank you again, everyone, for participating and bearing with my brief remarks. But at this point, data drives a whole lot of what we do in the tourism industry. And we were really pleased that with the Foundation for Environmental Education, that the University of West Indies stepped up a little over a year ago to work with the industry in gathering data on the application, the utilization, and so on by the Caribbean tourism industry in the use of eco-labels. So we're going to learn a little bit more about that and the findings from the research, industry-based findings, and how they can help drive our decision-making and our practices as we move forward. So it's a pleasure to introduce at this point Dr. Acolla Cameron from University of West Indies, who's Dean of Faculty for the Faculty of Social Sciences at UWI's St. Augustine campus. Dr. Cameron, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Frank. And colleagues, good morning. Just confirming that you can see this screen.
Yes.
Okay, great. We went. Right, so first of all, let me just thank the CTO for giving me the opportunity to deliver this presentation this morning. And thanks also to FEE for partnering with the university on this particular piece of research. So this morning, we want to focus specifically on the Green Key Eco-Label and the research that was done, as Frank said, just over a year ago. We looked at the perceptions of those accommodation providers who actually adopted the label in their operations. So I want to provide a little context and then, of course, get into the findings from the research. And I want to first of all make the point and probably just echo Joanna in that tourism, particularly the accommodation sectors, we all know is a major consumer of energy, water, and other resources. And in the Caribbean, this region, of course, that is uniquely dependent on natural beauty and environmental stability. Sustainability is not an option. It's actually existential. And as such, there is pressure from several quarters to green tourism, right, in everything that we do. And when we talk about greening tourism, we're talking about decreasing our ecological footprint. We're talking about contributing to nature protection goals, specifically water, energy, biodiversity. We're also talking about preserving cultural heritage. Promotion of social inclusion is also part of that greening agenda. And of course, the creation of new business opportunities in this space. So sustainability isn't just about taking risk. It's also about competitive advantage or competitive edge. And today's travelers are demanding more. They want authenticity. They're looking at responsibility. They're looking at transparency. And so accommodation providers that take the lead on sustainability position themselves as forward-thinking. They also position themselves as trustworthy. So in short, this is what we're after. All sectors must coherently promote a more socially inclusive, low carbon, resource efficient, stable economy with decreasing poverty. And this is the call to action, if you like, for the Caribbean tourism sector. Now, just to briefly go through some of the drivers for adopting sustainability action, and this is, of course, looking at things in a very broad context. So accommodation providers are increasingly investing in sustainability actions for several interrelated reasons. One, of course, environmental performance. There is clear value in reducing energy and water consumption, minimizing waste, and cutting carbon emissions. And of course, that goes without question. There is also the driver of business growth. As Joanna would have mentioned, sustainable practices help create new opportunities, attract eco-conscious travelers, and meet the expectations of our global tour operators. We also have market competitiveness as a driver, because sustainability helps properties stand out in a crowded marketplace, building brand differentiation and resilience. We cannot ignore the financial efficiency component. While there are upfront costs in terms of engaging in sustainability actions often lead to long-term operational savings, particularly in regions like the Caribbean, where utilities are very expensive. And of course, there is the reputational benefits. Green credentials enhance public image and foster trust within guests. With guests, it fosters trust with investors as well as partners. So in short, we can say that sustainability actions position accommodation providers as forward-thinking, as efficient, and aligned with both global standards and consumer expectations. Now, the research specifically that we conducted just over a year ago, we would have surveyed 106 accommodation providers in the region. And this would have been between Mexico and the English and Dutch speaking Caribbean. So you would notice the breakdown there with the 106 properties, the majority of which came from Mexico, followed by Trinidad and Tobago. We had Suriname, 3 properties in Curacao, 2 in Dominican Republic, and 2 other properties. And you would note that 99 of the properties out of the 106 were actually hotels, ranging in size between what we would say small, 51 to 100 rooms, then 43, 100 to 150 rooms, and then 36 properties on the larger side between 151 and 500 rooms. Now, when we looked at the properties that were certified, we noted that 37 of them were certified for more than 5 years, and 69 of those properties were certified for between 1 to 4 years. So they were all in a good position to report on their experiences of using the Green Key Eco Label. The actual survey instrument that we use comprised of 2 parts. The first part allowed us to get a description of the properties, their size, how long they're certified, number of rooms, and so forth. And then the second part of the survey instrument, we engage the properties on the guest perceptions of the properties that are engaged in the Green Key Eco Label. And then we also ask the properties to tell us about what were the environmental impacts, the sociocultural impacts, the environmental, sociocultural impacts, as well as the economic impacts of engaging with Green Key. And we also wanted to get a sense as to what were some of the issues that they encountered in adopting the label. So I'll walk you through some of the findings from this particular study. So in terms of the return on investment from using the Green Key label. So the first part of the survey, as I indicated, first part of the second section focused on guest perceptions. And what they found was that in a general sense, over 50% of the participants in the survey noted that green practices were viewed by the guests as responsible, and there was overall support for eco-labeling. So there's an appetite for properties that are responsible in their actions. 42% of the guests were willing to pay more for green stays. But notably, while guests were willing to pay more, they still prioritize price and comfort over green consciousness. Again, sending a signal to accommodation providers that yes, the focus needs to be on being responsible, but there has to be a balancing of that with ensuring that guest comfort is not compromised in the process. Okay. We noted in terms of the specific environmental impacts, the accommodation providers reported on improvement in their recycling initiatives, 43%. There was a clear reduction in plastic waste generation at the sites, noting a 48% there. 34% noted reduction in carbon footprint, so reduced water and energy use based on the type of equipment that they used at the properties. There was an overall lower water consumption of 41%. And then we also noted that there was increased environmental partnerships with the local communities, different entities in the local communities. We also noted on the social impact side, 49% of the participants noted favorable publicity for environmental stewardship. Again, coming back to that point that Joanna raised, greater inclusion of local communities in property activities, the pleasing environments or surroundings for neighboring communities. 55% of the survey participants noted that. There were positive impacts on staff satisfaction and staff morale. And then what we also noted was that additional skills were required for effective implementation. One of the issues that came out very strongly was that providers felt that there was a need to improve the training in order to effectively implement the Green Key eco-label. So that is something that we want to highlight there, particularly for our fee partner. In terms of economic and business performance, we noted that enhanced brand recognition provided an additional marketing benefit for the properties, where over 50% observed increased brand recognition. They also noted reduced operational costs, indicating efficiency gains. We also had 49% reporting improved occupancy rates and 52% noting improved ADR post-certification. Now, while we noted the very positive environmental, social, and economic impacts, of course, with all implementation of labels, there are some challenges that we have to note. Of course, some participants indicated application complexity in terms of maneuvering all that is required to apply for the label. 31% of the participants noted limited access to sustainable suppliers in their area. So while you want to engage in sustainability action, there was limited access to other entities in the space who along that sort of supply chain link that were on the same sort of wavelength with you in terms of engaging in sustainability action. So limited access to sustainable suppliers. And then, of course, the staff skills gap. 47% noted that there is that skills gap that needs to be addressed. So the biggest issue coming out of the challenges, if you like, was training. And I heard Joanna mention the fee academy and the yearly staff training support. This is clearly very much needed for properties that engage in the Green Key certification. Right. So as I wrap up, let me just point out that what came through very strongly from the research is that eco-labeling is an individual effort. Yes, but when properties engage in eco-labeling, they are actually investing in sustainability. It's not just about greening your operations. It's about aligning with global goals, improving your brand, engaging your community, as well as securing your bottom line. I think what also came through very strongly is that eco-labeling is seen as a strategic investment that pays off in terms of building capacity in the properties team for long-term operational goals. And so what we're seeing is clearly more efficient operations. We're seeing improved guest experience, community well-being, which combined leads to improved destination competitiveness, and then, of course, a direct link to the overall global greening agenda. So eco-labeling should not be seen as a cost, but rather it should be seen as a smart investment. And I think there has to be that shift in mindset in how you view eco-labeling as a smart investment that redounds to the individual benefit as well as the corporate and global good. So just to say for the any providers on the call, the time is now to engage in sustainability actions through eco-labeling as one of the tools that contributes to sustainability action. Guests are watching, regulators are watching, the community is watching, and so the time, I think, is now to make sustainability a competitive advantage as opposed to viewing it simply as a cost. Thank you. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Dr. Cameron. Those survey results are very, very revealing. Strong impact and value by most of the respondents, but there's still room to improve that and boost that, as we could see from some of the data results as well. I mean, you mentioned training as one avenue. I mean, can you elaborate a little bit more on that? What could be done in the training arena, and what else might we be able to do to boost participation? I think those results are one way as well, just as answering a little bit of my own question. But any other thoughts on that?
Yes, so what we discovered from the research, two main things, I think the takeaway, that training was a big issue. And in terms of just executing all that is required as part of an eco-label. But I think that another takeaway was that whole link to community well-being. And this is some research that we want to pursue further, where we feel that there will be greater buy-in to engaging in eco-labels when those businesses in the community, as well as other stakeholders in the community, see how the accommodation providers, their engagement, how it benefits the wider community. You know, so that's an area we want to probe a little further, but because we want to see how that really, the wider impact of the eco-label. The other thing too was the staff morale. We noted that there was a little pickup in the staff morale, and that's something we also want to explore, because we feel that the greater buy-in you get from the staff as well, we can see where the operations of the property will not just be, all right, bottom line, but I can see as a key stakeholder in the process where it benefits me as an individual staff member, and you want to give more to the process.
So as it's part of a community culture, company culture, it can extend to be part of a community culture as well in many ways. Interesting. Well, that's very helpful. And then also, I think, instructional for CTO and CHTA and CAS, that we can be even better players in advancing and working with our partners on advancing training and education and awareness building. Great. Thank you so much. We'll come back to you a little bit later when we in the Q&A session. At this point, we want to go back to Joanna, who's going to basically speak a little bit to the value of eco-labels for destinations, and also speak about a case study, Tobago experience. Joanna?
Frank, I believe I covered it's in my presentation, but if there's anything in particular you would like me to
No,
go over, I would be happy to do so.
I thought you did, and I was just looking at some of the other the flow that we originally had here, but it looks like you've compacted all in one. That's great. So we'll come back to you on the Q&A shortly. And at this point, I think we want to hear a little bit more about the practical on-the-ground application and experiences from a provider in Tobago, Castara Retreats. And at this point, I'd like to introduce their head of marketing, Sheena de Vignes, and she'll share with us a little bit about their experiences there, and correct me if I misspelled her last name.
That's okay.
It's
It's Sheena Devines, but that's all right. Sheena is just fine. So
Okay.
I'm really excited to share my experience with Castara Treaty journey thus far, particularly considering some of the stats that Dr. Acolla was able to impart on us. So I'm happy to bring some practicalities to those stats that Dr. Acolla was so gracious in sharing, and it was very heartwarming for me to see it. So let me just share my screen. There we go. All right. So I am the marketing and regenerative tourism manager at Castara Treats. And my journey at Castara Treats has really been to advance the regenerative tourism strategy of Castara Treats, and obviously how that can ensure that Castara Treats resonates with its right type of clientele. Just to give you a quick overview of who we are, we're located in Castara. Castara is within the UNESCO Man and Biosphere designated area in Tobago. We're located on a hillside with stunning views, beachfront views, sunsets. So again, very much in a high impact, environmentally sensitive area. So Green Key and our regenerative tourism strategy was really part and parcel of us staying true to the location that we're in. We have 17 lodges littered throughout the hillside that we're located on, each with its unique style and character. And the concept is one that we invite people to live in the landscape. And when I say live in the landscape, it's not just about nature, but also taking in the surrounding culture and everything that Castara and even the UNESCO Man and Biosphere has to offer. So for us, as I mentioned, the regenerative tourism strategy was at the forefront, and Green Key was a great tool for us to achieve our regenerative tourism objectives. So as I have here, at Castara Treats, we are committed to being more than just a destination for eco-conscious travelers. We aspire to be a regional leader in regenerative tourism, creating a model that is resilient, prosperous, and inclusive. And we do this by embracing regenerative tourism. We seek to uplift local culture, protect the environment, and drive sustainable economic growth, creating what we call a community of practice that shares in the transformative potential of tourism. So big aspirations here at Castara Treats, but it's definitely something we have been able to achieve as we move along our regenerative tourism journey. So Green Key for us is, as I have here, is an accountability tool. Dr. Acolla spoke a lot about staff engagement, and that is actually what I wanted to focus on today in my presentation, because my experience in implementing Green Key as a tool to achieve our regenerative tourism goals, the success of it really lied with how the staff buy in to the concept of everything that Green Key represents. And obviously through that, we can reap the benefits of the external marketing. So our team, we have a restaurant, maintenance team, housekeeping, reservation, we have contractors, and then we have our preferred tour providers. And during the process of Green Key certification, and this year we were recertified, it's our second year, we're going into a third, it was really important for us to engage all of these departments at their level. So I've done over 7 workshops during my time there. It hasn't been a year, but the workshops were really designed to be responsive and proactive to where they are. The team is very forthcoming with how they feel about Green Key. I'll give a practical example. The housekeepers love to use bleach. And I remember when I just started, they were hiding the bleach from me because they did not want me to know they were using bleach. So that really became the basis of my workshop with them, to really look at the chemical composition of certain cleaning products and the impact it has on the environment. And because we're located on a hillside, obviously the runoff and what we put into the space would be extremely important. And I'm really happy to say that now the housekeepers have definitely bought into using vinegar, baking soda, because there's a cultural expectation that when something is clean, it has to smell a certain way. Even the dosing of the chemicals that they use, it was a journey to get them to understand you don't need to see a whole bunch of suds to know that a particular item is being cleaned or washed properly. So through that process of, seeing the practicalities on the ground and making sure that the workshops and or Green Key criteria, they're well aligned to be achievable, was definitely something that was a great journey for us. The restaurant team as well, we've spent a lot of time looking at our sustainable purchasing policies. And I know in many properties, it's very easy to go with the cheapest product or the most available product. So it was a journey to expose the team to different suppliers and partners that can definitely give them the produce that they need to create the organic or as organic as possible and healthy food that we aim to provide. So the culmination of these workshops with the restaurant team, even the maintenance team, they were using practices that we wouldn't consider necessarily environmentally safe. At the end of November, we culminated into a general workshop and we set our goals for 2025 and 2026. And as I have here, more repeat clients who appreciate Castara treats simply because we take sustainably more seriously. This was written by a staff member. I did not tell them to write this. They took ownership of it. So that continuous engagement and workshops being tailored for their departments and then coming together as a team to understand not just the environmental implications, the economic implications, the cultural implications, has definitely been something that I can say has been very beneficial to us achieving Green Key and even our regenerative tourism goals. With the maintenance, I just want to touch on that because I know there was a lot of conversation in and around the environmental impacts with energy, waste, and water. And for many staff members, these things can be very abstract. So what I did when we started, we had a log. So for any issue in maintenance, they had to log it, be it a light bulb blew, a fan stopped working. And I can say as of last week, we have identified that through that log, we were able to see some aspects of maintenance that was wasting energy because of the electrical issues. So it helps them to see the practical side of how you're not just changing bulbs, but changing bulbs is indicative of a larger issue. And obviously that can help you to pinpoint wastage and any other aspects that will compromise our energy usage. It's the same thing for waste. We do composting on site, and it had to be an ongoing process of explaining to them how to compost properly, because the kitchen team definitely does a lot more composting than the rest of the teams, and our guests also are invited to compost and recycle on site. So they're able to see where the compost is being converted into something that is usable, because we have it used on our on-site garden and throughout the property. So they're actually getting to see it in practice. So they're happy to be part of that. The journey is very fulfilling for them. And with that, they are a lot more open to what Green Key can do for us. In terms of the social impact, and I had to extract this because my very first workshop, they felt that Green Key was just focused primarily on the environment. But, through this, we were able to illustrate to them that it's not just about the environment, it's also about stimulating entrepreneurship and innovation. So I have here one of our housekeepers. She's from the village and she makes all the welcome cakes for our guests. So she was able to create a secondary stream of income through us supporting her, with refining her recipe and obviously giving her the opportunity to supply us. We take no commissions. And, part of our regenerative tourism strategy is supporting women and underprivileged groups of society. Another image I have here is our wellness team, part of our regenerative tourism strategy. And again, looking at the social, economic, and environmental impacts is how they can contribute to Reef Check. And they have a snorkeling business. So they do provide snorkeling trips that we promote. We take no commissions from them. And we also help them to upskill in terms of learning about reef health through the Reef Check program, and obviously helping them in other aspects of their business. So all of this really trickles down into the economic impact for us directly and indirectly. And obviously it helps to build guest relations. I wanted to talk about that because when Herman makes her cakes, when Judah and Leah do their snorkeling trips, and the guests see how they're committed to the environment or to preserving a certain part of their culture, they're really excited to come back and continue supporting Castara treats. So this just leads to the point on external marketing. In my time working in marketing, a lot of the PR agencies, writers, journalists, publications, they have been very concerned about greenwashing. And a lot of properties would claim that they are environmentally conscious. But what Green Key does, it gives you the credibility to say that you are because of the process you have to go through to get Green Key certified. So this has definitely helped in bolstering the believability of what Castara Treats stands for. And obviously with the staff having intimate understanding of it, it's not just something we're writing online or talking about through our partners internationally. When you're on the ground interacting with the team, it's part of the language. So it really has to be an inside-out approach. So, working with the kitchen in terms of refining their menu to be more reflective of sourcing locally, sourcing organic as much as possible, infusing elements of our culture like cocoa or local vegetables, seasonal vegetables. It has been something that guests enjoy seeing because our menu changes, it evolves based on seasonality. And obviously it keeps the team engaged in terms of trying new things and staying true to what Tobago has to offer. So our plantain brownies here is a big hit. We use Tobago Cocoa Estate chocolates and we use Tonsi chocolates as well. Those chocolates are made locally. Tobago has a strong history in cocoa or chocolate culture. So again, staying true to what Tobago has to offer is a huge part of the narrative as well. We have a herb garden, and the herb garden that we have supplies a lot of the herbs and spices, some spices as well, for the meals that we prepare in the restaurants. And what I've noticed in the last few months is a lot of guests actually going into the garden themselves, and they're curious about local herbs and spices that we have, be it to make teas or to flavor their meals that they're making in lodge. And because of this, we're able to reduce costs in terms of buying externally some of these herbs that tend to be used in a high volume. So having them on site reduces some of the costs in terms of purchasing it externally. So It really is about a journey, as I mentioned, in terms of working with the team internally, making sure they're there every step of the way, meeting them on their level, because we have employees with various educational backgrounds. There's a lot of cultural norms that are counterproductive to environmental stewardship. So it's about being very sensitive to what they believe and what can happen and taking them on that process of re-education. So, from that, the team has been very open, forthcoming, and excited about what Green Key can do for us. And as a result of this, we have been mentioned legitimately and authentically in many publications throughout the UK and wider Europe. And the conversations online now is about how we can do better. The result for good work is more work. So a lot of the times, guests, they come into our reception, they see our Green Key plaque, and you have some very enlightening conversations about the journey to regeneration, or be it environmental stewardship, and they're excited to be part of the journey. So you create this community around you when you have the evidence to support your efforts in terms of environmental stewardship. So that is it from me in terms of Castara Treats and our journey. I'm happy to answer any additional questions based on, what I presented here. Very happy to see what Dr. Acolla and Joanna mentioned in terms of the resources for hoteliers, and I just want to encourage you all to make use of that. It's a great opportunity to get team spirit going. That's what I love about Green Key as well. You're connecting with your colleagues on a different level, so it breaks down silos. So really and truly make use of the training resources that are at your disposal and enjoy the journey, enjoy the process.
Thank you, Sheena. Boy, I'm blown away. That looks just. First of all, I'm hungry from looking at the photos of the food, and I'm just anchoring to get down there and enjoy that incredible beauty. It's really remarkable, and you guys have done a fantastic job. By the way, I noticed on your website that you're offering discounts for Caribbean residents. So people should take advantage of that right now.
Yes, thank you for that. Thank you for
What
that.
is it, 30% off or something like that?
Yes, 30% off. It's a slow season, or what we call the green season. You get to enjoy nature on a different level because, in the Caribbean, there is this aversion to what we call the rainy season.
Sure.
So we're trying to revisit or encourage people to view it as a green season to slow down and enjoy everything that's in front of you.
Absolutely beautiful, beautiful property, and it looks like it's well inculcated. That beauty is well inculcated into the people and the delivery of services and experiences and so on. How are you doing your target marketing? Because I mean, you're getting all kinds of awards. You're probably running a pretty good occupancy rate, I would imagine, and so on.
Yeah.
But
sure.
so how are you reaching people that want to experience your type of property?
Like I mentioned, it's through that advocacy. You build a community through you wouldn't believe the conversations that you have with guests, and they are happy to share the experience of Castara Treats right there and then in front of you. So referrals are a huge part of our business success because of the level of detail and commitments we have, not just the staff and the community and the environment, but we're living it. So guests are really happy to refer Castara Treats because of that. And, we're happy to have a high repeat visitor count year on year. And they keep us on our toes. Just, at the end of the winter season, I had a guest. They were really into solar energy. And I remember every single day we were talking about solar energy and renewable energy. And obviously they're inviting their friends to come down in terms of sharing the experience of Castara Treats and how they can support us and what we do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Very good, very good. So knowing what you know now, what advice do you have to your industry colleagues as to how they get started with engaging an eco labels program? And you know,
I would definitely say don't become overwhelmed by it. I remember the very first time I opened the Green Key packet. It's a lot because you have so many, the criteria are pretty long, but you really have to take it in bite size and break it down in digestible chunks, I would say. And uh, enjoy the process. You know, I think Green TNT has been very supportive in terms of guiding Castara treats and lending support in terms of areas we need to improve on. So don't become overwhelmed by the documentation, one, and see it as an opportunity to make your business stronger. As I mentioned, in terms of the level of accountability you have to achieve Green Key, you should feel very proud once it is you achieve it. And you can see the benefits of it in terms of reducing waste in particular. Like I said, that logbook that I created to see where we had outages, you know, that led to a bigger issue that was being ignored for quite some time. So you're able to identify areas for improvement and continuous improvement. So don't see it as just a label, see it as a tool for continuous improvement.
excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. Good, insightful presentation. Narendra, do we have time for any other questions, or do we need to move on to you?
You can take one or two questions.
Okay.
If there are any questions. If not, then we can slide straight to me to wrap up.
Well, I just want a question primarily for Dr. Cameron and Joanna. We see with the various label programs that Europe is eons ahead of the Caribbean. Yet we have an incredible natural qualities that I think far exceed what we see in Europe, even though they've got rich culture and history and so on. Why is it? Why? What do you think we need to do to get more of our people on board? Their practices are moving in the right direction, but they're not quite seeing the advantages of these kinds of tools that companies like Castara and others have seen in the region.
If I may start. So yes, so in Europe, you have a strong legal framework. You have the EU, for example, that is designed to operate collectively. You have a collective agreements. You have a strong enforcement, and not to mention, you have the economic capacity and political will to do so.
Right.
But you're right, what they lack is the natural assets that we have. And that is why they fly from there to the Caribbean.
Yeah, sure.
And we need to leverage that. And institutions like the CTO and CHTA, we are a collective unit already. We exist together. How can we then come together or strengthen our collaboration efforts? Whether it's looking at EU standards or developing standards for our own, because we are doing a fantastic job, like Sheena mentioned. So it's looking at opportunities where we can collaborate. We have the entities already, looking at entities for funding, whether it's through EU, CARIFORUM, etc., and use that in order to strengthen what we have and to leverage our natural resources and become more sustainable. Yeah.
And before Dr. Cameron chimes in, do the standards of European-based tour operators have an impact as well? These are huge brokers that generate business for the majority of hotels in Europe and many of us in the Caribbean. These international tour operators, the TUIs and so on, their standards seem to be aligned pretty much with European standards in the environmental, eco energy efficiency type of realm. Does that have a role to play? And are Caribbean hoteliers tapping into the resources and the requirements that the European tour operators have in order to generate
Yeah.
European business.
Yeah. So yes, that is true. You have the EU directives that is now mandating what type of sustainability programs, and the EU directives even mandate how Green Key is operating as a certification scheme. But what we can depend on is that programs like Green Key, that is an EU stand or derived out of the European Union, is now being implemented in the Caribbean, and we could use that already. It provides the framework, you have the standards, you have best practice, you have people like Castara Trees and other entities that are doing a fantastic work, and we can use that to further advance what we're doing in the Caribbean and become more relevant. Yeah.
Very good. Any further thoughts, Dr. Cameron?
Yeah, I just want to add that there has to be a shift in the mindset in the region from the eco-labeling or sustainability action being a cost to a smart investment. Because I think we still struggle with, the hard dollars and cents upfront costs. So that's one of the things, is that shift in mindset that I think we need to encourage. And perhaps if we get some pressure, if you like, from the entities like CTO to the destinations, and then trickle that down to the entities, I think that certainly will contribute to us being more open as a region to sustainability action.
And we saw from the UWI research that you shared, based on feedback from the industry, that the majority believe that investment, there's an ROI on those investments in eco-labeling kinds of programs. But it conversely also showed that for those that would like this, how we improve that is through better training and awareness that we've got to do. And that's where certainly the regional and local ministries and boards of tourism and tourism associations and so on can help in that regard. Any other questions? Are there any questions any of the panel members would like to ask any of the panel members before we turn it over to Miranda? No. I'm looking right now online about booking a flight to Tobago to go to Castara. Looks like a lovely place, a slice out of heaven.
We'd be happy to have you.
And I get that 30% discount as well.
Most definitely.
Very good. Super. Well, great. It's been a pleasure to have this discussion and be further enlightened by all of our great presenters. All of this would not be possible without the support and the work of CTO and Narendra, who has led the process for several webinars. We had a great one last week as well on crisis readiness and management. And I'm going to turn it right back to you, Narendra. My pleasure. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much, Frank, and all our speakers, who took time to be here with us today, all the attendees as well. Thank you so much. So on behalf of the Caribbean Tourism Organization, I'd just like to extend a sincere appreciation to our presenters. I mean, Sharon, Dr. Acolla, Sheena, Joanna, and of course yourself, Frank, as well as our attendees for making today's webinar a powerful and insightful discussion. I mean, Green Key is one of those eco-labels that actually makes a difference. And I remember my first time in Tobago, working in Tobago and so on, two of the first properties to become eco-certified was actually Shepherd's Inn and Banana Quit. And I remember being there, to hand them that certificate and so on. So it was so wonderful at that point in time, and to see it grow and expand and so on today. And of course, one of the reasons why Tobago was chosen to highlight the impact of Green Key and eco labels and the benefits and so on is also to show, there's a saying in the Caribbean: you don't need to be big. Tobago is little, but it's Talawa, as they say in the Caribbean, right? They're quite strong. So We began this session actually by asking a simple yet profound question. We spoke about ecolabels. Actually, the title of this session was "How can ecolabels be harnessed, right, as a source for sustainable competitive advantage?" And throughout the last 90 minutes, we've not only answered that question. I think Joanna did a fantastic job at the top, but it also expanded that question. Um, and enriched our collective understanding of the deeper value that eco certifications can bring, not just to small islands like Tobago, but in fact to our region. What we heard today, we got the global view presented by Joanna, we got the regional applications and so on shared by Dr. Acolla Cameron. We got a case study that was shared by Sheena, the Vignes, and all of those reinforce the critical truth that eco labels are not just a marketing badge or a green stamp. It has real value, and of course it's a mechanism for meaningful environmental and operational transformation. It's actually tools, and we saw that in Dr. Acolla's presentation, tools for building trust with increasingly conscious travelers, and perhaps most importantly, um, it's important from a sustainability perspective because it adds that layer. And I heard the term come out in Dr. Acolla's presentation, where she spoke about low carbon product. And of course, having a low carbon product leads to the region's climate resiliency strategy. Now, and the reason why I'm saying that is important, because carbon, we contribute the least to carbon in this part of the world, but we are impacted most from it. And by going in the direction of eco labels, the science is clear. There's a direct and undeniable correlation between carbon emissions and changing weather patterns. So we are impacted by storms, by hurricanes, by the tide, by global warming, and so on. And of course, all of that can be reduced. In fact, our carbon footprint can be reduced by going in the direction of eco labels. So, of course, that's another one I wanted to underscore. Our livelihoods depend on it as well. So it's not only a smart investment, but it's an investment for life as well and livelihoods in the region. So of course, that's why it's so important. So these systems encourage businesses and destinations, the eco labels, to reduce their carbon footprints through energy efficiency. We heard from Joanna, Acolla, and Sheena speaking about energy efficiency, waste reduction, responsible sourcing, and of course water conservation. I saw that come out in one of the presentations as well. And by doing so, they not only protect the environment, but they help slow that pace of global warming I'm speaking of, which then makes our communities safer and more resilient. All right, so we must therefore view eco certifications not just as an optional add-on, but as a strategic investment, one that safeguards our industry, our economies, and our people. Right, and there are no excuses. And I like how Joanna actually in her presentation, she said, if your country does not have a program operator, that is no problem. So no program operator means it's not an excuse. You can reach out to CTO and we can put you in contact with Green TT. All right. So what are the next steps? Well, one, deepen awareness and engagement. So let's take what we've learned today and spread the message across our networks. Business leaders, tourism boards, policymakers, community groups, all must understand the value and urgency of implementing eco certifications. And yes, to answer that question in the chat, whether these presentations and so on is being recorded and would be shared, we will submit a package and it will be emailed to you. Okay, so that will be done. The second thing, continue to build technical capacity. We will continue at CTO to work with our partners to deliver additional, technical support and so on to destinations who are seeking to go in that particular direction of eco certification, and of course, assist with that. The third thing we will do as well is we will try to get this recording to the governments and the tourism authorities should they be interested in exploring eco certifications into their national tourism strategies. by offering incentives and so on. You can do that. That's a strategy. You can offer incentives to those properties and businesses. In fact, Tobago had at one point in time, I think it's still in existence, the top program, which can then be leveraged as well to move closer in the direction of Green Key, because you can actually apply for the top program and utilize funding for green initiatives like photovoltaic technology and so on. And therefore, it aligns better with sustainability, investment promotion, and the overall product development. So that's something that can be done. The fourth step is that we must tell our success stories. And Sheena did a fantastic job today of telling that success story that has been happening in Tobago. And of course, the return on investment, more specifically, which came out of her presentation today. And of course, the fifth thing, the fifth step and the fifth takeaway is that we need to continue to strengthen regional collaboration, right? We will leverage our shared challenges, and that came out as well in some of the presentations, to build a united front. And through shared standards, mutual recognition, and of certifications, etc., we can position the Caribbean as a truly world-leading sustainable tourism region. Now, before I close, I want to encourage all of you to please stay connected. We will be circulating a follow-up email with the recording of today's session again, and of course, the resources to guide your next steps. We also welcome any feedback or ideas for future collaborations that you may have. And once again, thank you for being part of this timely and vital conversation. And let's leave here a bit more committed, not just to promoting eco-labels, but to embedding sustainability into the DNA of Caribbean tourism. Together, we can ensure that the natural beauty, cultural richness, and economic vitality of our region, is there for generations to come. So stay safe, stay engaged, and let's keep moving forward. Thank you again so much. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.